joining us here at Landskroon Wines in southern Paarl, South Africa. I'm Fanie Geyser, I'm the winemaker here at Landskroon. And this is an old family-owned farm of about 150 years, the same family. I usually say we don't change a lot at Landskroon. Our head cellar master is called Paarl and has been for the last 150 years. It's now the 5th generation of Paarl making as being cellar master and general manager here. We're about 330 hectares, of which 160 is planted with vineyards. 85% is red. The Paarl region where we are is a bit more hotter and it's a bit warmer, and what we usually do is the red varieties do a lot better. We do have a bit of Chenin Blanc and Chardonnay in the white, in Viognier in the white category, and then the red ones is the Portuguese varieties, Touriga Nacional Tinta and Tinta Barroca and Tinta Amarela, and then the red wine varieties is usually your Bordeaux varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot and Malbec. And then we also have Shiraz and Cinsault as additional varieties. We make all our grapes comes from our own farm and we crush it here. We've got about 40 permanent employees, so we have quite a big concern in that regard. Most of our harvesting is done by machine. We do have, however, one block of Cinsault, which is bush vines. Okay. And it's specifically done so because Cinsault tends to bear too much fruit, and that ends up to have an effect on the quality of the grapes. So we have a 20-hectare block of Cinsault, which is bush vines. We do irrigation, additional irrigation, not irrigation as a need, but more as an additional for if the warmer days come or warmer periods, to just keep the grapes going and really get the grapes to ripen properly. Landskroon is on the southern side of Paarl Mountain, so we look towards the seaside, Cape Town, and we see Table Mountain beautifully. And that means also we get the cool sea air in every evening. Every evening you'll get a drift of air which cools down the area. The soil itself is Paarl Mountain is the biggest outcrop of granite in the world, and that is something that's very unique here. So all our soils are granite and decomposed granite mixed with sometimes a bit of other clay sorts and so forth. That we have, if we go higher about the mountains, we've got much more redder soils and much more richer soils, and then if you go down it's much more sandier, and usually you get there the white varieties does well there. We are an old label. Next year we will be 50 years that we have labeled underneath the Landskroon label, and we did do it. The first wine was a Cinsault, and so we're going to do something special for you guys next year with a Cinsault. What usually happens is that we try and keep the yields down. That is sort of a decision we made to always do quality. If you look at, we've got 166 hectares and we only do 1,500 tons, so that's less than 10 tons a hectare, and that's what we aim to always stay behind. We like a good extract on the wines, and that's what we want at the end in the product on the table, is that somebody's got a good extract and an extra mouthfeel, and also to be a bit bolder, our wines. What we do at Landskroon, we are really an old-aged wine farm in some sense. We don't have a restaurant, but what we do have is we do have food pairing, which you can book in front, and then it's a lovely food pairing with specially chosen cheeses and biltong and droewors, which is dried meat products uniquely to South Africa. With our wines, and there's two choices there, one with a premier style of wines and other one more with a lifestyle style of wines. The accommodation, there's only one cottage which can host from about 1 to 6 people if you want to push it, and that's very nice on the farm itself. You've got a beautiful view on Table Mountain, and it's very quiet, and you're sort of near town. It's about 3-4 kilometers out of town, but you sort of got the farm feeling there. So he kept records since he came here in 1980, and every day's rainfall he measured. This year has been the most rain has fallen in about 43 years. It's 1,000 millimeters and still going. There's still a few days left in this year. So that is quite a huge number. The previous height was, I think, 913. We use all the grapes for ourselves. We make wine, and what we usually do, we've got a system where we make the wine in the cellar, and then about from our harvest is usually February and March, and then from May onwards we go through a series of tastings of our different varieties, and we decide we first make the mathematics of how much wine we need, but then we go through tasting to see which tanks is the best ones that we want to keep for ourselves. The rest one we do sell to bulk, and there's two big bulk buyers. One is KWV and the other one is Distel, which is quite big companies in South Africa, and they take the rest of the bulk. So we keep the best fruit for ourselves. Our market is mostly local, 55 to 60%. Export is about 40 to 45%. The countries that we sell the best in is Tanzania, China, US, a bit to Belgium, and a bit to Zanzibar. But then the other bigger countries that buys is Botswana, our neighbors, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. It is our Blanc de Noir. It's a rosé style wine, what's fallen in South Africa category of rosé. Blanc de Noir means white wine from black grapes, and we make it from the Pinotage grape, which is the indigenous grape. We only grape variety we bred in South Africa since 1934 and 1950. Somewhere they planted the first ones commercially, and it's a wine that we are very proud of. It's proudly South African variety. This specific wine has been in the top 5 Pinotage rosés, and yesterday got the prize as one of the best rosés in South Africa, or it got the prize as the best rosés in South Africa. So it is really a wine that stood the test of time and sort of is acknowledged. Okay. It's 60% Cinsault, 40% Shiraz. What you'll find with this wine, it is also very upfront fruit, but it got a bit of spiciness there, which comes from the Shiraz. And the color is also a bit more depth, more radiant. This does very well in China, especially for their New Year's, right at the end of January. And then also in America, and then Tanzania. It's our biggest export one, by far. Now this is our Pinotage. Now Pinotage will be for us, for you guys, probably something like Merlot. In that same category, I find that people that like Merlot is usually also will Pinotage. The mouthfeel and the structure is pretty much the same with the tannin structure. Our Shiraz is usually doing well. In the sense it's great wine, but the Shiraz category in South Africa is struggling. I don't know why. I don't understand it really, why people don't drink Shiraz anymore. Okay. It is something we find in the restaurants. They'll have 1 or 2 Shirazes on the menu, okay, but not. There are 4 Merlots or 5 Merlots, so they don't carry that much, and people somehow. And I think it's something about doing the whole thing about tendencies and insight and fashion and following and things like that. So I think that plays a big role in what cultivars, because in the late 90s, early 2000s, Shiraz was, you couldn't have enough Shiraz. Now suddenly nobody wants it. Yeah. Cabernet you couldn't sell then, now you can't keep up with the Shiraz. Cabernet. And now especially for you, sir. You get some wines that talk to people, and the Shiraz is my boss's favorite. So this is the wine he makes according to what he likes, he really likes. And that is the big, bold and outgoing style of Shiraz, which is it's an upfront oak, American oak we use here. Now sometimes people ask me what's the difference between the American and the French oak. I usually say what's the difference between Donald Trump and Macron, and then you'll know. It's a upfront, this oak, it's that vanilla flavors which is upfront in your face, and then followed with a nice spicy notes of the Shiraz. This is something that I would think will go excellent with Indian dish or curries, because it will carry easily that heat, and it will smooth it down, and it will stand up on its own. It won't become watery. Yeah. How do you like that?
I really liked it.
I know you will like it.
We began in 2007. We were passionate about giving back to conservation. Jeremy's worked in the wine industry for many years. I've worked in hospitality and tourism, and I came to live came to visit South Africa, and then ended up running a safari lodge in Botswana, a neighbouring country, and spent 5 years there. Wine selection wasn't all that good at those times, but it's changed a lot. We started this company so Jeremy could follow his passion in wine, and we could give back to conservation.
So Emma and I worked together.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we lived in Botswana together, and we actually got married under a big tree in the middle of the wilderness in Botswana. And we made a promise on our wedding day that we would do stuff to help with the conservation of African wildlife or the African environment. Not anything specific, just
we started in 2007. We had very little money, but we were very determined. And of course, Jeremy had worked in South Africa for 10 or so years, so he had a lot of contacts.
Yeah. I was the commercial manager of the company that is Fairview in Spice Street.
I worked a little bit in wine photography, that's my other passion. So we started with very little, but Jeremy has a great friend called Billy Hughes, who has a beautiful vineyard in Malmesbury in the Swartland.
Organically certified.
So we've been buying grapes from Billy. He's one of our shareholders. So at the beginning, we literally exchanged grapes for shares in our company. And we also developed other partnerships through people we knew, and then we got some friends in the UK to put £1,000 in each, just because they knew we would, they believed in us, thank goodness.
We sort of crowdfunded this business.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we're just about to crowdfund it again because we need a bit more capital, and it's quite an interesting way to finance a wine business, because you get people who buy into the project, and nobody puts up so much money that they have to have an enormous amount of say in how you run your business. It gives you quite a lot of freedom. We didn't know how it was going to work at the beginning. Everything is serendipitous and has happened through just actually by having a vision and just moving forward with the vision. But we've ended up with extremely powerful and very, very important conservation partners. And our company gives about 4% of our annual turnover, not profit, of turnover,
So it's up to around $200,000.
And we're basically a small family-run business. Very interesting thing about Shannon in South Africa. I mean, you've probably had a few discussions with people about Shannon along the road, but the Shannon Blanc clones that we have here are largely from vines that were brought here in the 1660s. Reasonably drought tolerant. They produce wine with finesse and with bright acidity and freshness in warm climates. So, I mean, you would have heard from some of my colleagues and friends who you've been visiting about our issues with power and things like that, and they're real. And where they perhaps have the biggest influence is actually in cooling. So you need to be very thoughtful about how you use your cooling, and but in my small cellar, the two presses that we have run on 220 volts. They run on normal power. Yes. So we can use a normal domestic generator.
Well, we began exporting to the UK and the US because Jeremy had contacts there. And then over the years, I've been very fortunate to get quite a bit of government funding. Mm-hmm. So that allowed me to visit countries I never would have been able to get to, Japan and Russia and China. And that's really helped us, extend into, the sort of new areas that people are becoming very interested in wine, and we're now seeing a change because the traditional markets are so competitive. I mean, obviously Jeremy's built up a really great base, but I just feel with the newer markets there's more potential. And I've just had my first trip to East Africa, where we've been selling wines in Kenya for about 8 years, and now Tanzania's opened up, and I just see a huge growth potential there. In 14 different countries. Yes. We don't have a huge marketing spend, so we can't do as much as we'd like to, but slowly. But we're excited. These 3 wines are on their way to India, to Mumbai. Okay. So we're working with Singapore, an importer in Singapore. They're Singaporean Indians and have connections all over Asia. They obviously have other businesses as well.
So I mean, we have some quirky liquor distribution laws in South Africa too. And I mean, up until a quite short time ago, no alcoholic beverages were allowed to be sold on Sunday. No. And if you go to a regular supermarket, Pick and Pay or whatever our supermarkets are, they can only sell wine. They can't sell beer or hard liquor. Mm-hmm. And
wine up to a certain percent of alcohol? Not really?
No, they can sell table wine. They can sell fortified wine. Okay. They can port and
Pick and Pay caged it off on Sundays.
In Paarl, because it's not allowed, but in other so our town, yes, we're not allowed to buy liquor on Sunday. But if you drive 10 kilometers down the road, you can. So well, it's to do with church. Mm-hmm. It was a religious thing. It was supposedly when you go to church, you shouldn't be allowed to have alcohol. So anyway, we buy grapes from basically from 5 different regions, and we buy mostly from small farmers. Maybe less than 20 hectares of vines, and I try as much as possible to wines that are good from the specific region.
And we try and stay with those same producers over the years, so you build up the relationship and obviously get to know how those particular wines and then we have our pack wines and then Lycaon Pictus. I haven't got a Lycaon here, but this is a Pictus. Mm-hmm. So these are the best barrels of a vintage that Jeremy selects, and so this Pictus 8. You know, we've worked with different artists, and we quite recently brought in these labels over COVID, where we named them after an inspirational wild dog to just give that better connection with people.
Yeah, I mean, we're different because I mean there are quite a few wine producers that have got part of their businesses has a social upliftment aspect or a conservation aspect, but I think we are the only business where that conservation is absolutely at the DNA of the or donating to conservation. Other types of people also have set aside a portion of their land and manage the land in such a way that it allows the natural flora and fauna to continue.
No, there are some very good initiatives in South Africa.
But our model is unique.
We're the leading conservation winery in South Africa.
Hi, good day. Welcome here at Perdeberg Winery. My name is Terence. I'm the direct salesperson in the tasting room. I've been with the cellar now for over 15 years. Perdeberg was established in 1941, where we used to be a co-op cellar, shortly meaning that we have not one owner. Perdeberg has like over 30 people who are shareholders in this business, and the main reason for that is just that all of them are the producers in terms of bringing their grapes to the farm. We're very behind for a lot of other sellers who are already in the business in terms of the bottle market and all that. So the first bottle was bottled in 2005. That was the first bottle ever to be bottled at Perdeberg. And like I said, it was tough. The industry is tough in terms of the type of wines that you do. And Perdeberg started with a very entry-level type of wines. When I talk about entry-level, I'm talking about more your everyday drinking wines, more your lighter style wines. For that fact that your entry-level wines are more your cheaper wines in any industry. That's more your cheaper wines. Perdeberg started to transform into a premium cellar. And when I'm saying transform, we brought in new ranges, new styles. There are certain wine drinkers you need to cater for, okay? So I'm talking about more your entry-level wine drinker. I'm talking about your medium-style wine drinker. Then I'm talking about more your complex wine drinker. So Perdeberg needed to make a decision in where they want to fit in, and can we accommodate all those type of consumers. And we've made a successful event of that, all right? So we moved from an entry level to a premium wine. In terms of awards, we've accomplished so much in terms of premium wines, entry level wines, medium body styles wines, and everything behind me can tell you that exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. Okay, the hospitality part of the salary is not the crown business of what we do here, okay? The production is obviously the biggest part in terms of we are really big in terms of our export. but we do need the hospitality, and that is important. So we have the tasting room, obviously, that this section that you see here before you is new. As you can see, it's quite new. When I started in 2008, we had a little tasting room, and that was too small to accommodate everybody. And we thought in terms of the tasting room, that's not enough. We needed to expand a little bit more in terms of hospitality, so we brought in the restaurant. So we have the restaurant also run by Mr. Rob Hahn, who's the head chef there. So yeah, and not only that, we expand even more. And we want to be like, you know, your venues where you can hold wedding functions and conferences. So that is part of the package that we do.
2023, this year.
This year's vintage, yes. And in terms of the area, there's a very common thing that I like to call that, or say to our customers, is that an area plays a big role. Now this area where the grapes come from, you can smell it in terms of the fruitiness. The fruitiness tells you that this is a warm area.
Right.
All right? So a warm area can be the Perdeberg area, which is at the back of us.
Yes.
But it can also be Paarl area. But the area plays a role. In terms of this one, this is more your Paarl area, and that is more your warmer area. Okay? So the warmer it gets, the more fruit you will get out of the wines. The Swartland is more your granite.
Right.
And granite because of the fact that we are close to the mountains. And most of the vineyards are at the slopes of the mountains. All right? So you will get all those minerality out of that. So that is where the difference comes in. What you add up on this, in terms of the bush vines, is that this is the only grapes that doesn't need irrigation.
Okay.
So one must think now, this grapes suffer. No irrigation. If Mother Nature decides you're going to give them a little bit of rain, that's the only time. And what is interesting about these grapes is, as you can see, the roots, they grow as to between 2 and 3 meters deep in the ground. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that is the only way they're going to be looking for moist to survive. But for these grapes, they get irrigation through the year.
Yes.
And they are volume driven. If I say volume, I'm talking about we get bigger tons on them in harvest, and on them we're getting smaller tons. There you go. All right, I'm going to move over to the red wines. This is the one I wanted you to try, because the reason why I chose one, because this is very, very close to Perdeberg, because this was one of the bottles that we bottled in 2005, okay? The only thing, we changed the label a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a nicer look. But if people to ask, what is our top seller, it will be this one. Very, very interesting that an entry-level wine will do so good. I mean, this wine is award-winning. It has won Michelangelo, it has won that. Where one will think that an entry-level wine's never to, do so good, but in terms of this one and this one, they won competitions. But this is quite a nice and easy drinking.